Before we get into the weeds, I want to take action. Okay, that sound means it's we. Oh, action. Oh, action. Okay, action. But before we get into the weeds of the content, I just wanted to kind of like relax our shoulders a little bit. As you know, I started this whole podcast thing a couple years ago, and now I have the motivation and inspiration to start releasing content every single day this month. That's a personal commitment, but you really inspired that, to be honest with you, partially, right? Because I was already thinking about it, but I think just some of the encouraging words that you shared and just even calling me out on my shit and saying you're a perfectionist, let it go, right?
Let's see it. We're ready for the full thing.
Yeah.
Quit teasing me, man.
So, I mean, for so long, I've always felt like I was on an island by myself, and I always wanted to create community so that I can start doing these things together with other like-minded people. So,
Well, I'm so glad you did.
yes.
Yeah.
So let's get started with the content today.
All right, y'all. Well, you're listening to Bestofbecca, and this is a podcast where we get real. And this is Kingferdinand, my co-host.
Yes, all one word.
Yes. And we are going to get into it about the art of being alone.
Speaking of alone, I just said I felt like I was on an island alone for 2 years.
Yeah, stranded.
And now I'm not anymore, because
yeah.
I've been able to create that community and connections with people. So,
But tell me a little bit, what did you learn from that, from being alone? I know there's going to be a lot of good and bad from that.
yeah, so I've also learned how to be my own best friend.
We're missing my sticky note. And
We're missing something.
Yeah, it's right
pink.
there
We go.
Mr. Vic taking my life away right now.
Mr. Executive Producer behind the scenes. Cheers. Yes.
Yes.
I love it. This is real
The
now.
man behind the action here.
Yeah, we were on the microphone and pointing to people behind the camera and saying, please, can you do this and do that? And now it's really happening right now. So, but the thing that I learned the most was how to become your own best friend. So you have to cheer for yourself in something like this, creating a show, creating a brand. No matter what it is you do in your life, you make that decision on your own, and you have to really cheer yourself on to the finish line and beyond.
Yeah,
So that's the biggest thing that I learned.
And I would say you probably was dedicated. It's I'm here, I'm doing this with or without anybody.
Yeah.
And then you naturally,
1000%.
it seemed like you naturally got off the island or getting off the island.
I am still on the island, but there's a boat now, so I can go back and forth between the mainland and back on my island, because you have to really go back into that mental space alone and reestablish your commitment and your promise to yourself. And it's usually a solo thing.
You have visitors now.
Yes. So
Okay.
I send the boat for you, and you come back over.
So for me, the first thing when it comes to being alone, and a lot of this I feel like ties into our last episode, in the last topic, where you stay committed to leaving an unhealthy relationship.
Right.
And this isn't just for my single people. This is also for people who are, in relationships or in jobs or any kind of environments where you're kind of the solo man. You're on that island.
Yes.
Maybe you're running the household. Maybe you work from home and you're just you and your dog all day. Or maybe you don't even have a dog. Which,
because I don't.
I sometimes I don't know if I could do this without my little loony roo. But oh no, there it goes.
There it is. It's still
all my nose just trickling down, leaving me alone. It's fine.
See, that's the kind of stuff that would happen, and it would be me in the studio by myself, and I'd be like, oh wait, that light just fell.
Yeah.
Or oh wait, the camera, the footage is blurry, and I don't know if the audio is recording onto that.
And then you're having a little meltdown by yourself. Yes,
by myself. Kingferdinand on one word.
And I think that goes right into the first thing is you're tackling that loneliness.
Yes.
You're figuring out how to deal with that grief. You're figuring out how to deal with all the problems by yourself.
Right.
There's nobody else there to fix that toilet. There's nobody there else to fix that light. It's you, or you're stuck in the dark.
Yeah.
Or without a running toilet.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. So what has your experience been? We both live alone.
Yes.
And I feel like, I don't know how long you've been doing, but I've been doing it since I was basically 18. I've had roommates here and there, but it's pretty much been me.
Same here. Same here. I moved out of my parents' house, my mom's house, whenever I was 15 or actually 16 when I turned 16.
Wow, you're younger than me.
Yeah. But I wanted out, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. It was like I
Yeah.
needed to break up with my mother. And as I mentioned before, because of certain things that I went through as a child, and I became very independent at an early age.
Yeah.
So when you start at that age, you realize you got to do it on your own. You start to have these friendships and different people supporting you.
Yeah.
But it started that early for me, and I got my own apartment when I was 17 years old, which is kind of crazy to
That
think
is
about.
insane because my first apartment was I moved in with my cousin at first, and then she had to leave, and it was just me. I had to figure it out in like 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, my own apartment, then eventually got my own car. I had 3 jobs. And so I spent a lot of
At
time alone at
17.
17.
Wow. Okay.
Leading up to about 19 years old, right between like when Hurricane Katrina hit, I'm from New Orleans. I spent a lot of time working, and you're traveling and commuting back and forth to work. I was also in school, University
Okay.
of New Orleans. I was
That's a
very,
lot.
very lonely at that point
Yeah.
in my life. And so I really had to become my own best friend, as I mentioned before. Even though I had some great friends, I had my sister, I had some close relationships, but man, I got to tell you, I had to become my own best friend and biggest supporter.
Because at the end of the day, it was just you.
Yeah. And then it got even worse. And this is not a woe is me. This is actually the thing that made me the person who I am today. But around that time when Hurricane Katrina hit, so imagine how many more people were in that lonely place,
Yeah.
feeling so separated and
Yeah.
just pulled apart
Yeah.
from what they knew. So I was one of those people.
So you probably dealt with a lot of grief.
I did. But it was also delayed too. It wasn't right away. It was delayed because I was so focused on trying to figure it out because I work very well under pressure. So that grief didn't come until the dust started to settle. And so
What do you mean by that? What do you mean when the dust started to settle? Like,
when the dust started to settle, when like after we were allowed to go back into the city, collect our things, once I made the decision to relocate to Dallas, Texas from New Orleans, once I was offered a great opportunity,
Okay, I
once
get it.
things really started to happen for me,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
when I started to feel
Okay,
a sense of grief.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one because I don't necessarily feel the grief when all the chaos is happening. It's when it all like kind of relaxes and it's done. And it's like, holy cow, that happened to me. Oh my gosh, I'm here because of that. So like dealing with that grief of, all right, here we are now, the next step.
Yep.
That's crazy. Did you ever deal with the boredom? Are you ever bored?
I find myself bored at times. And I always find a way. This is so strange. I have a unique personality. I'm always able to find something to entertain myself. So, like right now, I'm learning Spanish on Duolingo. And so a lot of people, they might spend their time on social media and scrolling endlessly. And so I spend that time or some of that time like on Duolingo, and I just treat it like a video game.
Okay. All right. So
Right? Don't ask me to say anything right now. I'm giving it, I'm trying to let it absorb in my subconscious so that it becomes natural for me to speak. And so I'm not confident just yet. But I find ways to entertain myself by, reading, self-improvement. I'm extremely passionate about fitness. And so I find different ways to pivot away from those thoughts of loneliness or that emotion.
yeah. See, for me, the hardest part is like even I was like living alone, but maybe I was in unhealthy relationships and then those ended, and then I had to get used to like the new routine of not like hanging out with them all the time.
Right.
And I was like, okay, what do I do with my time? Like, okay, it's like I'm so used to doing this and that, and now I'm like, now what? And then if I wasn't careful, that led to grief, and that led to like unhealthy like coping mechanisms. And
Like
unhealthy drinking, smoking, especially the smoking. That was the biggest one for me. And like that was my best friend. Like that was always reliant. That was always there, and that was always something I would come home to. It was a constant routine, and it was so normalized. I mean, most people think it's fine, but that's something that was part of me to tackle was, learning how not to be bored and how to deal with the grief of the loss, and just realize it's just you.
Right.
And well, at this point, I have a dog, so that was nice. That helps me a lot just to have the dog. But for those who don't, like, you have to tackle that, and you have to figure out how else to how else to cope, what else to fill your life with and your time
Yeah,
with. And
yeah.
I mean, a lot of it, I think, does help that, like, now you have all these chores. Like, you have all
I know
those
as
to
an
take,
adult, you become like you just have this list of things that you have to take care of, and it's all you. I will suggest, I think everyone should have hobbies. I think that everybody should figure out what it is
Yeah.
that makes them jump up and down and start to obsess about that, because it
Yeah.
starts to occupy your mental real estate. And so then you become less bored if you're obsessed about tennis or the outcome of the tennis match.
Yeah.
Or, an artist, you're just kind of obsessing about their story and studying their work, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But you have to find some kind of hobbies that's going to keep you occupied.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is actually part of it for me.
Yeah.
This keeps me in my nights, I'm dedicated to something that has a purpose, and, I'm not just going to my, unhealthy coping mechanisms or the unhealthy people or anything like that. Like, I'm actually putting in the time and the effort, but it's fun, right? Like, it's something that I can just, kind of do in my leisure. Like, yeah, we schedule it, but at the same time, like, I get off work, I can kind of have a minute and then go. It's, I have other hobbies too, like to play basketball.
You do? I didn't realize that.
Walk my dog. I mean, my dog is a lot of my hobby. I train her, and what else? I do a ton of things, to be honest with you. I'm a writer. I love video
Obviously,
games.
you come over here with your spiral notebook.
Yes.
I mean, I thought I was a little organized. And then Victor, he introduced me to this spiral notebook that has like these episodes that you can create and really be structured and organized. And so I created my own template, if you will, and I started to document like what my intention is around this episode and describing it. And so when you came over with your spiral notebook, I said, oh, okay, maybe I can learn a tip or two on how to be efficient and write things down. So a writer in what way, though? Like stories?
Oh, a little bit of everything. It's from just like journaling to a lot of it's like this podcast stuff, or try to do like a little poetry. But most of the time it's just journaling my thoughts. I have so much thoughts, a lot of intrusive thoughts. So I just write them down.
Okay.
And go from there. I feel like I haven't done intensive writing in a while. I feel like it actually has transpired into more of a speaking role, because I realized that I have so much to put in and I just don't have enough time to just write every detail down.
That's
and
why
my
this
brain's
is
a little bit
perfect for
faster.
you, right?
Yep, absolutely. But another thing about tackling loneliness, I think a lot of people are afraid. I think people stay in unhealthy relations and jobs because they don't want to be alone. Like, I know so many people that are like, yeah, no, I'm not leaving them because I don't know what I'm going to do living alone. I know so many people who have like, they've even gotten like a roommate, but the roommate wasn't there all the time. And so they're like, I can't do this. I've got to move back in with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Or a boyfriend or somebody who is consistent and, can keep up the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you, and I want to circle back to a comment you made earlier. I've lived alone most of my life too. Okay. So I've had a roommate or two, and I lived with a partner or two, and it was always short-lived. It was never something like long-term where we lived together for 5 years or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't necessarily want to live with someone. It's just I lived in a very particular way, and people are messy. Like, people are messy. That's one aspect of it. But, I rather live in a space with someone who I would love to be around 24/7, not just tolerate.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And it's not that I feel like if I'm not careful, I get annoyed pretty quickly. Like, I love my space, but I also do struggle with the loneliness that comes with it. That's why the dog helps a lot. But I also know, like, okay, I have to have that alone time. Yeah. And I like the freedom to, like, if I can't get to the dishes, I know I'm not letting anybody down. Like, it's on my own terms.
Right. It's not that big of a deal.
Like,
it's not the end of the world because it's just you in the apartment, And then there's a point in time throughout this conversation that you're talking about with loneliness and just being alone and navigating life. You start to build these habits.
Yeah.
If you become a determined person to not be so self-conscious, not be bored, and you want to preoccupy your mind with healthy thoughts, then you start to create these patterns and habits that will repeat positivity in your mind.
Yeah.
So,
and I think sometimes you have to deal with the big grief. Like, I remember there was a point where I thought it was just gonna be me and my cousin for a while, but life happened and I had to move out relatively quickly. She had to go her separate way. And before I knew it, like, I was just sad. Like, I was just crying every day. Like, there was just so much that I didn't even expect. I was so young. I had no idea I would feel all that grief. I thought it'd be the best thing ever, you know?
Right.
Like, literally, no, it's like you have so much money. Like, you really have to budget. And, like, being at the young age, everybody else was still living with their parents, or they were, you know, they had other means of, you know, roommates or whatever.
Right.
So that was hard. And it was hard not to try to find a roommate, or not to try to find a romantic partner that was going to fill the void. And I want to say that took me years. I think that took me up until like probably the last year or so to really...
To get through it on the other side?
To get through it, yeah.
On the other side of it?
I always knew I loved to have my own space. Even when I went to college and I had some roommates, I knew it was going to work out because I was coming from living alone and then to roommates. But it was different because I had my own space. I had my own bedroom with my own bathroom. That was the key thing. And then the only thing we shared was kitchen and living room. And it was kind of nice because we also did not pay... We paid separate rent.
Oh, okay.
So the money was separate, and
Yeah.
that was really cool. Like, I honestly would be open to maybe something like that, you know, out of college. That's iffy, you know, because now I'm like starting to get content with, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've got a flow, my money's right. Like, I don't necessarily, I really don't need anybody else, you know? I have people now are like, hey, do you want a roommate? Yada, yada. And I'm like,
No.
I only want it for, like, in theory, it sounds great.
You want a girlfriend who lives with you, a healthy relationship.
I want somebody who can take care of the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help with the dog.
Yeah.
Help
All
with
of
the
those
finances.
things. Let's be real.
Be someone
Let's
that's
keep it
there.
real
Let's
with
keep
Becca.
It real. Yeah, I think I'm a good roommate. I could do it, but like at the same time, again, I love that freedom. I can wear whatever I want. I can be as messy as I want. I can be as clean as I want, and I can really create the space that I want. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but it does come with that grief, the boredom, the just the, like a void that you have to feel. I'm missing something. What else happens when you're lonely?
Well, I wanted to ask you, how long does it take you to get to feel those sensations of grief? Is it right away or is it delayed?
For me, it's a little bit of both. It just I think it depends, like, what my days consisted of. Like, how alone am I throughout the day? Like, there was a point where I was at a job where it was pretty much just, I mean, I was going there every day and there was people here and there, but it wasn't consistent social. And I think that's a big deal. Is how much it was like in a social interaction.
You have a little idle time.
Yeah.
Too much idle time, and then your mind goes everywhere.
Yeah, and then you go home and it's like there's still nobody, and there's still nobody to talk to. So it just kind of depends. But I would say now, especially COVID was the hardest, right? Because you really couldn't interact with a lot of people. Like, it was just me going to work and coming back, and there was maybe 2 or 3 people in the office all day, and then I came home. There was nothing, like, there was nobody. Continue. Now there's all these people, which that was also something to convert to. I was almost like, that was almost like overwhelming. And I'm like, feel like I'm just now getting used to like being more social. Now I'm in a work environment where there are people all the time, students, there's faculty, they're coming in and out. Like, sometimes I don't have a minute to breathe. And it's so great to come home and just be like, oh, it's just me and my dog, and I don't even have to really talk to her.
Yeah.
Or I could just talk to her. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. So it is refreshing because, like, I mean, you and I, we are creating podcasts, and my show is called Talking Just to Talk with Kingferdinand, and yours is Bestofbecca, Keeping It Real, right? And we have to speak into the mic, but the reality is that I don't like to have to talk all the time. Yeah, I want to speak when there's truly something to say. Yep. And to be able to make an impact on other people, not just talking just to talk. Like, unless I'm drunk or maybe had a piece of edible and I'm feeling social. Yeah. But I don't want to always have to be the person, the silly clown, the class clown all the time. I just like to sit back, relax, and have my private time.
And for me, I feel like if I come home to somebody, like, I feel like I have to interact with them. Like, I feel like, and you know what I mean? And to me, as soon as I come home, it's like, whew, that's it. Like, what you need. If I need to call somebody, I can call somebody, that kind of thing. So the grief, it depended on how much social interaction I have. If I'm not careful, if I kind of isolate myself, or maybe everyone's busy, that grief can come in really quick. Yes. And that's when it's easy to go to those coping mechanisms that are unhealthy, whether it's alcohol. For me, it was smoking weed big time. That was my big thing. Because as soon as I smoked that, like, my mind is occupied. I go to bed earlier. Like, I just don't feel the grief nearly as much. And they say that's the what do they call it, the lonely drug or something like that. So that one I had to tackle. I had to tackle being alone without that coping mechanism. And that's something to like really humbles you. You're like, okay, I can do this. Like I am okay. I don't need X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I would say my dog really helped me a lot. Like especially if you deal with like a lot of anxiety and depression, I will say a pet helps, but it can also hurt. I thought my pet would be, a
well,
relief.
if the dog chews up the couch or takes a shit in your in your living room,
or is a little bit more aggressive than you intended to be, and you're dealing with the traumatic dog. So that comes with it,
That's why I don't have any pets in this house, in the house of Kingferdinand.
Take that with a grain of salt. Do not go get you a dog right now because I said so. No. Just keep that in mind. It does help, but be particular, and we can dig into pets on another topic.
Can I tell you, I had an epiphany when you mentioned COVID. You brought me back to, I'm in a state of gratitude right now. I just realized what God did, the universe did. I actually, right before COVID, 2019, my partner and I, who I was dating at the time, we were together for years, right? We never lived together. But in 2019, right before COVID hit, we decided to move together. And I never realized that if I didn't move with him, I would have been out in my own apartment, potentially, and very lonely and very unhappy by myself during COVID.
Yeah.
That was a huge moment for humanity, really.
It was, yeah.
So you I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself during COVID because that was complete isolation for the most part.
Yeah.
But I just realized how lucky I was to like decide to move in with my partner. We got a space together actually, and it didn't work out, long story short, but during that period of time I had someone with me, and that was something that I just underestimated until you reminded me just now.
See, my COVID experience was so different because I felt like I was already living a COVID life in a sense, because I want to say I was just out of college. Yeah, pretty much just out of college. I really didn't have any friends. I was barely here in Dallas. And I was a big stoner, and that was like my thing. Like I would just come home and smoke and all day long. Like I don't know. Like I interacted with people, don't get me wrong, but especially in COVID, like all my close relations were separated now. We're all different from college. And then at this point, like I was actually not the people that were working from home. I was still going into the office every single day. Like
I just so happened to be on leave at the time. The universe had me exactly where I was supposed to be.
Yeah,
Nothing changed for me, literally. It's beautiful now that I'm reflecting on it right now.
Yeah, and so it was almost more of a culture shock when we were kind of getting out of it, and more people were being more social, and I was like, oh yeah, like I feel like I was kind of doing that more. I mean, obviously it was different because we couldn't go out to like restaurants as much, and there wasn't as many people, that kind of thing. But I didn't necessarily, I felt almost like I wanted, like kind of like you, like I wanted to find a relationship or like move in with somebody pretty quickly. Like, cause I don't know, that's just how everyone was kind of doing it. Like if you get sick with the person that you want to be with.
Oh, is that that's what you wanted? Like for me, it happened. This was 2019.
Oh,
prior, like had no idea COVID was coming, right?
Oh, and you were on
and so I'm talking about divine timing right now.
So like prepared you for
like it somehow I ended up being in the right place at the right time, making the right decisions. But in the moment, in the midst of all of that, like leading up to that, I was very lonely because my partner traveled a lot. So to piggyback off the same conversation is what I'm talking about right now. And then I remember making that decision that we should move together. We should consider like actually building a life together to see where we can go. And then one thing led to another, and we end up in a space, and then COVID hits. And then we're both kind of like stuck together. And like I was never alone anymore. Because before that, you go in these waves in life where you feel a sense of loneliness. No matter how popular you are, no matter how successful you are, how many people you have in your entourage, there's always a sense of loneliness for every single person. It's about, are they willing to admit it?
Yeah, and I would say, like, again, you don't have to be single to this. Did you ever be in this relationship or any relationship feel alone and having to tackle that?
Yes.
That's a big thing here. You still have to tackle loneliness whether you're with a partner or not.
Yes. And we were together for almost 11 years.
Wow.
He traveled a lot. And even when we were together, there were moments where I still felt alone because either I wasn't feeling heard or either he wasn't feeling heard because we were on two different planets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you, even in a relationship, will still feel a sense of loneliness.
Yeah. How did you feel the void?
By having fun. I used to go out and have a great time with friends.
Okay,
and at
yeah.
that time, even though there's still waves of loneliness, I was more social at that time.
Yeah.
So I would go out, hang out with friends, socialize, get a little tipsy, which gives you a little bit more inspiration to talk, just to talk with people. And so then I was so much more social at that time in my life. Nowadays, I'm a little bit more on the introvert extrovert line, right? So
see, I'm in a stage where all of a sudden I am so busy. Like I am barely have a Saturday to just hang out by myself for a full day.
Wow.
And it's been crazy. And then once I do have that full time, sometimes I feel myself spiraling a little bit.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like reaching where I'm like, ooh, do I need something to void or whatever? What do I do?
Wow.
I'm getting better at it for sure. Like I'm able to focus on other things and, having only that one day, then I'm like, okay, now you need to tackle all the things you weren't able to with that week. But that's been such a transition. That's kind of what motivated me to talk about this was I'm watching now it can be a lot more social. And I think also summertime helps too. When it comes to the winter, I think the seasons are a big thing. So like once you hit the winter time, like I feel like a lot of people have to tackle being alone.
Yeah.
And like
me included.
People don't go out as much. I definitely don't. It's going to be hard as heck to get here when you're in the winter because I do not like being cold. But also, I know that like if I don't isolate too long.
That's easy. We got another room right over there.
Yeah, we'll still get on this microphone. And I mean, I'm so grateful. I just want to throw this out there. I'm so grateful that you are making this time, even though you are very busy with your job and with your dog and everything else you have going on.
I have to. Like, if not, like, it's just, I know I'd just be at home, like, what the heck am I doing? Be sad. Because I mean, even it's sometimes you have to do it when you're sad, when you're tired, because I am tired, you guys. Like I'm literally worked a 10-hour shift yesterday, 10-hour shift today. We'll work a 10-hour shift tomorrow. It's 5:30 a.m. and then I come and I record, and we record sometimes till
midnight.
I don't get home till midnight,
yeah.
and it's 4 or 5 hours of sleep because even then I'm just like still keep thinking. But it's dedication and watching it the next day or editing it, like it's all worth it, right? So it's something to keep in mind, and again, especially when you're sad, because there's moments where I'm like, I don't think I have the energy. I don't think I can do this. And then I walk into the door of Kingferdinand, and it's like, I can do this.
Oh my
this
God,
is fine.
this is
like
beautiful.
there's the energy. There's the energy.
Yes, I love it. Wait, we gotta like relish in this moment. That's crazy. Cause like, okay, I'm single. I am so lucky and blessed to be able to attract these types of people like you. Last summer is when I met Victor OG Tiger Man, the executive producer of the show, Talking Just to Talk with Kingferdinand.
Hey.
And even though I threw events and all these people around, music. If you can believe it or not, that's the reason why I would throw events. This is the reason why I talk just to talk. It's to bring people together so that I can spend more quality time with the people that I care about and love.
And you also know what we talked about unhealthy relations last episode, and this keeps me away from the unhealthy things. This is safe. This is healthy. This is proactive versus going to some random partner's house or someone I do know that isn't healthy just to not feel that grief of being alone.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's important too, is finding that ground of, you can have social time, but also don't be, don't isolate too much. And I think that's a big thing of living alone and being alone. And, again, even if you have a partner who's traveling all the time, where your work schedules are different, it's just you and the kids, like it's big to, still bring in your friends when you need to, but not have them there all the time, because I feel like that creates more issues if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So those are the big things that I've learned with tackling that, the loneliness of being alone.
I even empathize a little bit more with single parents, not even just single mothers, but single parents. Parents that have to raise their children by themselves that don't have a partner, girlfriend, husband, like how lonely they must feel.
Yeah.
Right.
You're two, you have to deal with so much. Like you're two people in one.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking care of the household, you're taking care of the kids, you're also being their best friends, you're also taking care of yourself, you're working on yourself, and then some.
Maybe they're working on themselves.
Like you have, and I think I hear it all the time. Like they're like, I can do one thing and then something else falls. Like, I feel that way with my dog. Like, I cannot imagine that with kids. Like, I have so much respect for them.
Yeah, me
because
too. Me
they
too.
made a
me
big
too.
decision, like in our last episode, about staying committed to the unhealthy relationship, and then they're diving into this part of definitely being alone, and tackling the loneliness.
Yes.
But
yeah.
there's a silver lining to all this. You know what it is?
Always.
So something I've discovered is the magic of doing things alone. And I've kind of started this, probably a year or two ago. I'll go eat alone. I'll go to movie theaters alone. I love it. I actually prefer it now. But I took it a step further this year, and I went to a concert alone for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever done that before?
Oh, yeah. I went to 50 Cent and Janet Jackson. I went to, I do things by myself. Yeah.
So I'm going to start doing that from now on.
Busta Rhymes. Yeah.
I went for one of my first concerts. It was the Russ concert alone at American Airlines. And I was not going to lie, I was terrified. That's the one thing I haven't done alone. I've been going to concerts and festivals since I was 13. But I've always had at least one person with me.
Yeah.
Because there's just fears of it, who knows, and concerts can be sketchy by yourself. You're not, well, I thought it would be, but then I went to this one alone and it was so magical. I don't even know if I want to go with other people anymore.
I mean, I don't think I do it often enough, to be honest with you. Now I'm 38, and I think the older I get, the less things that I do by myself. Mm-hmm. I got into a phase where I would do, all kinds of different things. Go to a concert, go out, go dancing. Mm-hmm. But then I'm like, okay, stop talking to me. And, then I'm just like, all right, no, that's not why I came out here.
Okay.
So it's like I'm protecting my energy a lot more.
You have a boundary that you have to set too.
Yeah.
Well, something I discovered, not only did I go to a concert alone, I went to, I guess you call it like it's a podcaster, and he does live tours now. Shout out to Leo if he ever watches this.
Shout out Leo, because we're on our way too. I mean, that would be really cool to be able to do something like that.
For me, it just clicked. It's like, I cannot wait for anybody else to come with me to this stuff. Like, I have to go. Like, I did ask people if they wanted to go, but there's like one person that I knew who knew him. But I wasn't going to wait on her. Like, I was like, I got to go. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
And same thing with the concert. I didn't wait on anybody else. And I loved it because then I didn't have to make plans. I literally was able to go straight after work and nothing, like on my own time. Right. Got to go early.
Did you throw out the invite and nobody bit, or you intended to go by yourself?
Not really. No, I really didn't. Like, for Leo, I only knew one person who would even be interested, and I let her know ahead of time. And I didn't like piggyback on it and be like, hey, what do you think? I just kind of left it at that. And then I maybe posted on my social medias that I was going. Same thing with Russ. I did the same thing. I actually told nobody until I bought the ticket and I posted it on social media. My very best friend, who would have been great if she was going to come. That would have been amazing memories to make. But she couldn't make it. I was cool with it. But what the best part of it in both of these events was the people that I met that were also single. Oh, not single. They were alone. Because one of them actually had a fiance at the Russ concert. She was like, yeah, I just went. I went without him. Like, he was busy and I needed to go.
So in other words, y'all had something in common. The universe is very intentional like that. Yes.
Better. The one with Leo, there was a couple people right next to me, and we talked a little bit, and that was great. But the Russ one, it was so magical because I met this girl as we were like literally walking from the parking lot to the show. So neither of us were alone. We're now Snapchat friends. Shout out to you. And it just feels like a connection already. And we went our separate ways. And then I sat down, right? And I was like, I'm probably not going to be anybody else who's alone. Nope. There was another person who was by herself and another person who was by themselves. Oh. And they do this stuff. The one girl, she was just like me. This was her first concert alone. And then the other girl in between us, she's like, this is my 5th concert alone. I started traveling alone. She's like, I'm on a cruise alone. I was like,
I think that people should embrace it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was talking to my sister about this recently, and I was like, I get to make decisions and not have to say, oh, are they going to be able to afford it? Or am I going to have to take care of this little one? I don't have any children, right? Or whatever the case may be. I don't have to think about all of that stuff. I don't have to be
worried about choosing my friends, because some of them, maybe they get, I don't even want to say this, maybe they drink a little bit too much and then we take care of them. Or I end up feeding off their energy and I'm drinking more than I want to. I went to this Russ concert and had no alcohol, no smoke. I just enjoyed the vibes. it was a great time. And the people next to me, like, yeah, we chatted a little bit, but during the show, it was just us in our own zone. And then at the end of it, we say, I hope you, like, congratulations for your first concert. And, good luck on your, your solo journey.
Yeah.
And so now I've been on this solo journey. And like I said, I've been doing like the little things like going to restaurants. I love, I don't mind eating alone.
Yeah.
And that's something you learn also being alone is eating alone, even whether it's in your apartment,
there's always
house
somebody
or
to
your
talk,
restaurant.
just to talk with you though, no matter where you go.
It was so good though, because we didn't have to talk much at all. Like, you know, we just had here and there. And if we wanted to chat, we probably could have, you know what I mean? But it was just us. And like those two, we didn't even like connect on social media, and I was cool with that. Like I'm cool with like just meeting you one time and moving on.
And that's it, right?
Sometimes I'm more comfortable with strangers than I am with people that I've known for years.
I agree 100%. I'll be honest with you. I feel that I'm more comfortable on this microphone and looking into that camera than I am with strangers now.
Yeah.
That's insane to think about. It's been an identity shift recently over the past year.
Well, there's no judgment. Like this camera cannot tell us anything bad about us at all.
Right. I mean, but in the beginning, you think that's like it's a knife that's going to come out and stab you.
Yeah.
Because you get so nervous, but that's just a camera lens. And like I said in our first piece of content, and when you look in the lens, you're looking at your audience at home. Mm-hmm. So you're able to still connect with people in this way. So.
Yeah. And also the money.
Mm-hmm. You get to save some money.
Much money.
You get to save money.
I literally looked at, like, I started keeping track of how much money that I would save because it's just me.
I don't have to keep track because the moment I stopped this, and 2019 was a pivotal year for me where I started to make really, really tough decisions and ask myself some really thought-provoking questions. And that journey of self-discovery, personal development, aligning with source, all of this philosophy stuff and, spirituality. And I started to realize the more I eliminated people and toxicity out of my life, the lower your expenses are.
Yeah.
The least amount of time you spend wasting with people who you don't care about or who is not in alignment with you. Yeah. It's like all these things you start to notice organically and you're like, wait a minute. Okay, but then I do have a lot more time on my hands.
Yes.
And then it can swing around to loneliness. Yeah. It's like, there's got to be more people who think like me. There has to be, and obviously there are.
Start to attract that, and that's something that I'm like currently in, and that's been the most beautiful part is the people that you are attracting and who you do choose to spend that time with. So that way I'm gonna say fill the void, but it's more balanced. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not just trying to fill it; it's just naturally being filled for me.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's just like when you think about wealth. Or winning the lottery, for example, you're acquiring money and it's very fast. And most lottery winners, they lose money. Yeah. They lose the money fast, right? Well, when it comes to attracting, I think it's a slow burn. You attract the right people. You connect with the right people, the right audience. That's in alignment with you, your belief systems, and the person you're growing into. And that's not going to happen all at once. No. That's the lottery reference. Yeah. It's not going to happen so quickly. It's going to happen over time. And so then those relationships are sustainable. Yeah,
so you got to be patient and consistent with that and know that, like, you're okay. You are okay being alone. Yeah. You don't necessarily need that person, even if you may crave that. That's a big thing is also staying true and not going back to that toxic relationship or toxic coping mechanism. I keep saying that because that is so real because you feel, to me, there's always a point, even if you've mastered it.
There's no mastery when it comes to that.
You feel like you master. You're like, I got this. I'm in
you can stand on the podium and say, yay, I got it. I figured it out.
And then on your hardest day, even your best days, you come home and you're just like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, damn, it's just me.
I'm going to tell you right now, like, okay, we're talking with Bestofbecca about a sense of loneliness. What's the name of this episode again?
The Art of Being Alone.
The Art of Being Alone and the magic of doing things alone. I mean, but I think it's human nature to feel a sense of desire to want to be with someone, right? I think it's human nature.
It is human nature, and I don't think we should be alone all the time. Like, that's why I'm focused on, like, try not to isolate, but, bring in those social connections. And where is that? And be mindful. If you're not careful, you're at the bar all the time because do you really like to drink or do you just like that social interaction?
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's why I love that we do this once a week. That's something I can look forward to. That's something I get the social interaction. We have a little bit of a drink. But
I didn't even think about it like that. I just thought about it as we're creating content and you're a person that commits and you've been consistent, but I didn't think about all the other social benefits.
I need
from
it.
it.
Like,
okay.
I mean, I think, we could take a break if we did for a week, but if we took 2 weeks, I might be a little sad.
I'll be like, wait, I was looking forward to that. I wrap you in the plans. This is like, I would never say no. I'm always going to make. We were up at 7:30 or something like that this morning. We got started, It's been a long day. And not hard physical labor, but just like the mental, stress of like creating the project that we did today together.
Yeah.
I mean, Victor got a lot of work done today, thanks to him on set with us in the studios here. But it's crazy just how much work we put in today, and I still wanted to make sure we showed up today.
It didn't matter, and I don't, it was getting late for us recording. I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I have another day to rest and be alone and bring up that energy. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm an extrovert or introvert. I think a lot of people are actually more in between, and they don't realize that they need that social battery to get up a little bit, and you need that alone time. So refills, what I'm seeing.
Off camera, on TikTok.
Oh my goodness.
Continue, Bestofbecca.
Yes.
This is cranberry juice, okay? For the audience tuning in for a new episode of Bestofbecca.
It's our communion juice.
Just like that.
And please hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. And where else are you going to have this content?
Bestofbecca Media, which is on Instagram. Bestofbecca 3 is on TikTok. And that's where you can find me on so far. Yeah.
But it all starts with Bestofbecca.
Sure
and
does.
So that consistency is key. And I'm so excited to be able to collaborate with you on this content. So yes, continue.
Yeah, so kind of going into we essentially we create a routine, right, of you and I. And I think where I get most.
And if you're watching on TikTok, you're getting the behind the scenes right now as well.
Oh, is it live right now?
Yeah, we're live on your TikTok for the first time.
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
Out.
Victor OG Tiger Man loves to surprise me. Yes, I love it.
Always,
right
forever.
Now to Kingferdinand's channel. And,
okay.
They're getting a perspective of me and you guys on the camera right now.
Yeah.
So,
See, I don't want to be a part of like the camera handling, because I would be overthinking it. I'd be like, do we start now? What do I say? What's the title?
Just talk.
And that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do is speaking to this microphone and talk just to talk with you. So
there we go.
Yes.
So I'm gonna kind of dip back into a little bit of the tackling the loneliness, and so because something I realized is what we're doing is we're creating routine.
Yeah.
And I think I feel the most loneliness when people are inconsistent. And I would to a degree we can't always create a schedule with our friends, but if someone you really enjoy, you see them here and there Monday, and then you don't see them for 2 weeks, and then you see them every single day, and then you don't, that creates more of a loneliness for me. Because then once I get what I don't, and when I'm not there with them, we're not doing the same thing. Same thing with work. I actually really enjoy work because that's something Monday through Friday that fills 8 to 10 hours of my day. And if I don't have that, I'm kind of like, what do I do?
Right.
After, of course, when you're trying to, you do need breaks, don't get me wrong. But after 2 weeks or something, I'm like, I'm feeling that loneliness. I'm feeling that
Not
grief.
me.
I don't know what to do. I'm getting better at it. Definitely, because now at this point, I have a lot of self-projects. And I think that's something you learn. You learn how to feel it, right?
Yeah, you have to.
But if you're so used to your routine of going to work 40 plus hours a week, and then you only have one day off or something like that, you still have stuff to do. But as soon as you kind of break away from that, you have 2 weeks off, you kind of run out of those things to do, and maybe you got to figure out, your projects. And that actually helped me. I had 2 to 3 weeks off from transitioning work, and that's when I started working on the podcast stuff a little bit more, working on the art, playing more video games, finding the hobbies, that kind of thing, and not necessarily seeking individuals or any kind of thing to cope with that void. Yeah.
I was gonna throw a boomerang into it, because I think even your 9 to 5, your career, whatever those things are in your life that you can depend on for a level of consistency, you also have to shake things up so that you aren't so dependent on whatever that is.
Oh yeah, because your routine will kill you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Like I have a friend who she finally started getting into routine of things, but I can see her being like really sad. She's like, okay, like I go to work, I go to the gym, and I hang out with my boyfriend every single day, but like the joy in her life it just seems different to me versus when she was a little bit more spontaneous. Yeah, she was still going to work and all, but it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to my aunt's house and then I'm gonna go to the gym here and then, you know what I mean? Like I have to do that too. Like I still fit everything in, but I'm not doing it like that. Because if not, I just get into the routine and the routine will kill you. And I feel lonely within the routine.
You'll feel lonely within the routine, but if you become so dependent on the routine and the routine is removed from your life for whatever reason or another, then that grief will be a lot heavier.
Yeah.
So I think that's why vacations, PTO,
Yeah.
taking a break from it all, learning something new, I think all of those things really contribute to you not feeling so lonely over time.
Like I'm literally finally taking a break from Thursday through Saturday. Like I'm going to go camping with some friends and their family. And I cannot wait for that because I'm still going to be surrounded with people, but there's going to be times when I can kind of go and do my little thing, go play basketball or whatever. But I'm also taking a break from my everyday for the first time in months.
You're not going camping alone, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's gonna be a ton of people.
I mean, no, it would be fine. It would be fine. I was just trying to see if the magic of doing things alone.
Yeah, well, there's gonna be both of that because like there's gonna be people there, lots of people there. But I think there's gonna be a moment where I can kind of go and take a walk by myself.
Okay, yeah.
I can go play basketball by myself. You know, and these are the people that I've known for years, and I could be like, hey, I'm just gonna go do this for myself, whatever. And that's another thing when you do these things alone, like going to concert, there is a level of safety that you have to be aware of. So something that I did when I was going to this concert is I told my best friends, I was like, hey, they all have my location. I was like, hey, can y'all just be mindful that I'm going to be going out and doing this alone? And they're like, sure, we got you. My best friend tracked me all night long. She knew where I was at, what I was doing.
Oh,
and that helped me be safe too, because that's the fear of being alone is as simple as like thinking you're gonna choke on a piece of chicken and die. You know about that feeling, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that. I mean, I think we all have those thoughts, but I think with practice and just like, okay, I hate to be spiritual about it, but like bringing yourself back to that present moment and then realizing you're connected to all things, especially the creator.
Yeah.
It's like then you have the sense of loneliness goes away.
Yeah.
And I've been able to get back to that place on a more consistent level within the last few years.
Yeah. And I feel like you learn to take care of yourself a lot. Like you're sick and there's nobody else that can help you. Like, you're the one who has to get your meds. And maybe you do have a friend that maybe can bring it by, but maybe they're not available at all. Like that's happened to me a lot, especially I think with
Uber Eats, Amazon Prime.
Yep.
You know, you got a few options in 2024, you know?
Yep. And
you don't have to feel so lonely because the delivery driver might, say hi to you.
To be honest, AI has helped me significantly because with loneliness to me came a lot of depression. And with that also came with like a lot of not being able to do this and that and how to get up and have to go to work. There's no other option. If you're not going to make the money, you're not going to make the rent. And for me, going back home wasn't an option. In a lot of reasons why, like safety wise, and also just for my personal way. Like I'm not going back home. Like Dallas is where I want to be, but you have to get up and get those things and hustle, whether you feel how you feel. So AI really helped me because I had it to where the lights would turn on, good music would come on, and those kind of things helped me get up and get out and do things, and timers, that kind of stuff that would like automatically feed my dog. Because the depression would feed in, and I would forget to feed my dog. Poor thing.
That's interesting. Let me hit you with this. So, have you heard about this whole movement where ChatGPT can become your partner, and there's a way for you to program your AI as a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and they start to communicate with you as such. Like, it's a real thing.
I fight with my Alexa. Alexa is my AI shout out, I guess. I'm rolling my eyes because we fight.
I broke up with her. I used to have a few things around this house, the light bulbs and everything. I still have the light bulbs in my lamp in the living room, but it's like when I turn them on, they just flash. It's like they refuse to connect, and I'm over it. You notice I never use the lamps close to the window, so no, I don't use AI in this house yet.
Power went out. They probably forgot your Wi-Fi password.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
And that's something that's part of being alone too. You learn like when shit goes wrong, you're like
You gotta fix it,
and you have to find time for that too. And
Yeah.
that to me that drives me nuts because it's like I have 8 million things to do, but the one thing I want is I want Alexa to have my lights on at 9:30 every day. And
That's
when
crazy.
something happens like that, you're like, okay, I don't have time to even program that. I've got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to do all these other things. If I had somebody else who could, help with this or that, then I could tackle that first, and then we'd be fine. So I feel like that's a big thing too. Is you have to start prioritizing things, whether you like it or not.
I gotta point something out. I don't know if you realize. I don't know if you realize how privileged you are with everything you said. Okay, all right.
Don't do this to me.
This is probably just a moment of gratitude, but this is like champagne problems that I think that we can all admit that this is a champagne problem, baby.
Yeah.
But no, it's great. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to be. So there's nothing wrong with that. But people are out here using AI technology to feel a sense of companionship and to avoid the loneliness. And I think that's the way I feel about it. I think it's actually a beautiful thing if it's going to avoid people from wanting to commit suicide or hurt themselves and things like that.
Yes.
If that's what it takes, then so be it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had to take a moment there because that is.
You didn't think about that, right? Like,
I mean, I have, but not in this moment.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to go there for this podcast at all because that's something we'll talk about big time. Is like
that's what this
keeping yourself
episode is
alive
about, right?
because I feel like being alone, like you deal with. We keep bringing up grief because that is like the biggest component. And when you're doing everything alone, you're dealing with health problems alone. You're literally keeping everything in your apartment alive and functioning, and even yourself and. Like, it's a lot.
It is. And I mean, thinking about who is this message for? That's why I brought this stuff up. It's like I put myself in someone's shoes who might be listening to this, who might actually be feeling lonely. And when you feel a sense of loneliness or disconnect from society, maybe you feel alienated from your family, what kind of thoughts happened, right? Those intrusive thoughts come up and you might think about all kinds of different things, and it might start slowly but surely with you wanting to hurt yourself, and then maybe you wanting to isolate from society and then vanish from life. And so this message, I think, should be able to speak to and connect with individuals that might be thinking that
you can do this. You can do this. I know being alone it's not easy at all, but I think it's a superpower once you realize that you can do it and you learn to tackle again like the health, because that to me that was the hardest part. Was it's like even before we came, I was choking on some food, and I was like, "Am I gonna make it to the podcast? Oh my god,
am I gonna be able to make it?
Oh my gosh!" And it's like, okay, now I've got to do this and that. Actually, our man behind here, there was a moment when I had to go and stay with my sister for a week. I was just so unbelievably sick, and it was so scary. And I was so grateful I had them and had him, and he brought in grounding for me. And then it was time to go home. And that was actually like the hardest transition, because then I was starting getting used to my sister was there, making sure I was eating, making sure the medicine was right. Like Vic was here and there all the time, motivating me. I'll be real. I was detoxing from marijuana. Nobody talks about this. Everyone thinks it's the safest drug in the world. It's not. It's not if you're not careful. And that was so scary to go back home, and now I have to try not to go relapse. And now I don't have all the people coming in and out because my apartment is much differently. I didn't have the same connections. So that was a transition.
Yeah.
And that was
Awesome,
something.
yeah.
But now, round 2 of breaking free from marijuana, and I'm doing it, and I'm filling it with other things like this.
Yeah.
And healthier people, and like I knew I could do it after going through that hump. So, if you are having to be alone, you're transitioning from unhealthy relationships, you just had to leave somebody's home and you're by yourself, or maybe your partner is leaving for a while, you're on different schedules, you can do it.
Yeah.
get over the hump, cry it out, be ugly, and just
cry ugly.
Yeah, cry ugly. Go
Yeah.
do those things alone. That might be hard, even if you get back in the car and you still cry again. You're going to see a silver lining. It's going to get better. You got this. And I think that dives right into my next topic, which is the self-improvement.
The superhero that you can become after all of these things we just talked about. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you really learn about the freedom of that. The money is so nice. You can spend it just on yourself or other people, your own projects. You can really start to seeing what your desires are.
Yeah.
What do you like? You can start creating whatever you want. There's nobody else there. There's literally nobody to tell you.
Nobody to tell you and nobody to hold you accountable either. So you got to cheer yourself on.
Cheer yourself on. And accountability can be a big one. It can be a slap in the face, but it also can be, again, a superpower. Because you're like, okay, well, I did not do that well at all, but now I can. And there's nobody else to judge me on that other than myself or my dog. My dog judges me. But
I'm sure. What's your dog's name again?
Looney Roo.
Looney Roo.
Mm-hmm. She's a lab pit mix.
All right.
She is 5 years old, but she is always a 3-year-old. I tell you what, like she has a personality like no one's business.
How big is she?
She's for
like
a pit,
the size of
for a lab pit mix. She's relatively small, but she's a
like
medium,
a beagle.
Bigger. She's a medium sized dog for sure. She's 55 pounds.
Okay.
But she's thinner, muscular. I'll show you a picture.
Okay. Yeah.
But she's not like a big bully because she's not a full grown pit. So she's decent for like an apartment, but she's still the girl needs a backyard. But she holds me accountable. Like she will now let me know when you forgot the food or the water.
Oh, she'll have an attitude.
He goes like, "Oh, this dog has it all." Yeah, that's why it's like it can be a pro to have an animal.
Yeah.
But of course, it sometimes it's overwhelming in the beginning. So just be mindful that if you think that an animal is going to solve your loneliness, not necessarily. It creates its own problems and loneliness. But you'll get there. If you're like me, you'll find the ways. You'll find the people who also do it alone with an animal and go from there. But she holds me accountable big time. Like sometimes I feel guilty coming and doing this because I've been gone from her for almost 12 hours. She got me for 1 hour today.
Yeah.
And I have to make that up in a different manner.
Okay.
And I have to ground myself. Like that was a big thing of getting a dog too, was all right, yeah, you're alone. A lot of people will get their own place and they're never there. Were you ever in that timeline, especially when you were younger?
I was. Yeah, I was. When I first moved here, I moved to Addison and I had a beautiful apartment, like a split level. I lived alone, of course. I was working in the Galleria Mall. And I was never there. I worked so many hours, and then by the time it's now that we're talking about animals, I actually had a cat because all right, you're working so many hours, and in retail, you find yourself just immersing yourself in the work. And you're not working the typical 9 to 5 schedule.
No.
You're kind of working during business needs, right? I got a cat. His name was Titan. Titan, if you're out there, I still will whip your ass because of what you did to my apartment. But every time I tell this story, there's a few people who laugh because the moment I got home, and this is during Christmas, I was working a little bit of overtime, working for a company called The Sharper Image. And that company, I'm telling you, they went out of business, but that company really treated me like gold during the hurricane and offered me an opportunity of a lifetime to be like a store manager here in Dallas, and relocated me and took care of my family. And I'll never forget that.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so I decided to get a cat. And, just to kind of like fill in the holes of the loneliness of being a retail manager and going home to an empty house. And I got home one day after working some overtime, and Titan tore up my goddamn apartment. And he jumped on the figures of whatever art I had on my wall and pulled everything down, took the tissue paper from the bathroom downstairs and ran upstairs. It looked like it was a circus in my house.
So I can relate so much. Like, if I'm not careful, she knows better, but she will find something to be like, you're not here enough.
And let you know.
Let me know for sure. I do not get mad at her anymore because I know better. Like, there's just no reason. It's like, all she wants is attention and time. Like, this is the cuddliest dog you will ever meet. So,
Well, thank you for tuning in for this episode of Bestofbecca, where we're talking about animals that can get lonely and what they do when they feel lonely, right?
Yeah,
it's not about humans all the time.
Yes, your animals will get lonely.
They can.
And it ties into like when you are starting to get depressed and lonely, like they will hold you accountable. Like you have to take care of them. They will let you know big time. And that's something to understand too. If you decide that you want an animal to fill that void, you now have something else to take care of. So if you're already having a hard time taking care of yourself, maybe take a step back.
You got to think. You got to be considerate of both sides.
See where you can be consistent. Work with yourself. Find those other resources to help you. Like AI is best for me because those lights come on at a certain time.
Oh, privilege, luxury,
and you may not always have that first when you're living alone.
And most people don't.
You start on the mattress. I get it.
Right. Most people don't. Some people don't have a bank account.
I would say more about automation than AI. Setting up for lights to turn on certain times.
Just like that efficiency point of it, because like you don't have to think about those things.
It just
right?
And that's when it's just one less thing to have to get up and turn that light on. Like it's already going. That music from the alarm is already going.
Right.
So that helps me kind of get up and go or whatever.
Cup of coffee is already waiting for her. Your coffee is waiting for you already when you wake up.
When I used to drink coffee, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I literally switched to the. I remember the best thing ever of one of my last unhealthy relationships was she had a automated coffee maker, and I was like, oh, I need that bad boy.
Is that why you stayed around for longer than you should have?
The Ninja.
No, because I ended up getting one.
Oh.
The Ninja. And then it died like a few months ago.
Oh my God.
And that was tragic. That was so tragic. Now I have Mr. Coffee and does not turn himself.
Oh, that's Mr. Coffee Machine.
So right now on the TikTok shop there is a sale on
shout out
on the Ninja. There's a couple Ninja products. They have the creamer and they have I don't know the coffee machine.
I haven't drank coffee in 4 months, so
in my building, I walk out, go get the coffee right there. I got rid of my Keurig machine and everything. I'm just like.
I'm an espresso machine now.
I go and get me a cup of coffee right there, and I come back into the house of Kingferdinand. So
I miss coffee so much. Maybe soon.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about self-development and the person you become after going through all of this, right?
So your independence, it gets strong because you're like, okay, guess what? I can fix the toilet. I can take care of myself when I'm ill now. I can handle the dog. I can handle literally the everything and be just fine even on my worst and hardest days. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. And then you can also make decisions on your own, just like the simplest things, right?
Yeah, it comes a little bit easier in those things for sure. And money management was a big one for me, and I really actually love that one. Started budgeting a lot more, prioritizing where I want to go, what I want to do, and that I feel like that kind of fell into starting doing more things alone. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to the concert because I can now. I'm not going to wait for anybody else. That was the biggest pro for me too, and starting to be able to create more because I didn't have these external people all the time, and it was like, this is just you.
Yes. And what about all the skills that you learned? Like if you were a person who decided when you felt that sense of loneliness, right? And the magic of doing things alone, and you started to discover things that you really enjoyed, right? Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's you went to see someone speak and you recognized that they wrote a book and you started to read a book a month, right? To improve your vocabulary, communication skills, things like that. So I think there's a lot of value and benefits to being alone.
Yeah.
Like the feelings that you have might be on a negative end of the spectrum, but I think the sense of loneliness can also inspire you to do certain things to improve yourself.
Yeah, big time. And it even comes to the point where it's like, do I really need anybody? No, I want somebody. I don't need somebody.
Yeah,
and I
big
think
difference.
that helps you attract the right people. You're not just like, oh, I need someone to help me with my finances, or I need somebody to help me around the house or with the dog, even though that's an extra lovely thing to bring. But you don't need that. Like if they were just because then once you attract maybe that right person, that best friend or whatever, it's like, well, I can still handle all these things alone. But if you come in and you can help and you can add and you're nice to be around, like it's a pro, right? Like it creates more of less of a codependent relation, and that doesn't necessarily be a romantic relation. It can be just with your friends or your family. that kind of thing. And then you're just enjoying them and you're enjoying yourself too. I think that was the biggest things like you said, you become your best friend. Like
you have to become your best friend. And that's not going to happen right away when you start to feel that sense of loneliness. I think it'll come maybe toward the end of you realizing you are a blank canvas and that you can develop yourself from a blank sheet of paper and you can start to paint the picture that you want to see in your future.
Yeah. And I started becoming a lot easier on myself too.
Yeah.
You know, a lot easier. Like just as simple as like, I don't know, cooking more for myself. You know, and some days I don't cook well at all. Like it just doesn't work out. And I think if somebody's there, I'd be a little bit more hard on myself and maybe I had to go. Yeah, sometimes I'm like the expectations might be a little bit higher, you know, depending on who it is.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, well, I know myself at this point. Yep, you never have cooked that before. Like you're probably gonna mess it up. Or, you know what, yeah, you've cooked eggs 8 million times, but look, you burned it this time because you're ADHD as heck, and you went and attended to that. And
the cabinet's open, the fridge is open, the dishwasher's open.
Yeah, and you're like,
the eggs are on the stove.
Yeah, you're like, Jesus Christ. But you don't, I mean, at first you maybe get really upset at yourself, or you have the days where you just break down, but then you let yourself do that, and you realize it's okay, and maybe that is me. And then you self-accept that. Yeah. And so then when you bring other people in and maybe they see that one day and they don't react well. You're like, okay, maybe you're not for me. Okay, like, because I have accepted that I am a hot mess express some days. You know what I mean? And other days I am on it, you know?
Who is perfect, though? Like, who is the perfect that is consistently just exactly everything that they need to be at all times? And there's no one like that.
And
no
I think
one.
That's part of being alone. You self-discover that.
Yeah.
You discover what your perfect imperfections are and perfections can be and where that level is. And you can set your own expectations. And I don't know. I really had a lot of self-discovery of who I am. I'm still learning that. And I'm very cautious and hesitant to add more people to my home life because I'm still self-discovery.
Right.
You know, and I want to be where King is, where he knows pretty much exactly who he is and how he's gonna be. You know, like
I do have a very clear picture, and that picture becomes more and more clear every day. And so I did want to talk about the relationships that you have, like when you're going through like everything. We told a story basically. We're talking and we're speaking to people who might have a sense of loneliness, a sense of isolation, and then acknowledging those feelings and thoughts, and then maybe going through the motions of trying different things alone.
Yeah.
And then I think when you land in a place of self-discovery, self-development, you're trying new things and really developing and building yourself up again.
Yeah.
The relationships that you actually have, your friendships, your relationships with your family, professional dynamics, the ones you really connect with, you start to cherish a little bit more.
Big time.
You start to appreciate those more, right?
Yeah.
You respect their time a little bit more.
No, and also those people who you can call at the drop of a hat when you're like, I am choking right now. I am alone.
On a piece of chicken.
Literally, or just...
There's that piece of chicken again.
So real, though.
Yeah, I mean, I fried a piece of chicken. Like you said, you don't cook very often, but like...
No, I cook a lot.
Oh, you do?
No, I cook a lot, but there's just days when I just suck at it.
Okay. Well, yesterday I was alone and I was cooking, and I did this thing where I seasoned my chicken very well, and I twirled it around in some flour.
I already know where this is going.
For the first time, I actually put enough olive oil in the skillet, and so it fried to a crisp that was so perfect. When I bit into it, it had a crunch. I was like, wait, Kingferdinand on one word. You're learning how to, me alone, right? Yes.
And I like it because you get to learn by yourself and you get to make your own mistakes. And to me, I'm just not as hard. Like I said, I'm just not as hard on myself. Well, sometimes I am, but
me either.
I get over it. At this point, I get way over it.
You knew that already. Why did you do that again?
Yeah.
All right. You know next time.
Yeah.
I am like the father figure to myself.
I love that.
That's what I've become.
I'm the mother figure.
The loving father figure, though, that I never had.
That you never had.
Yes.
Oh, that's deep.
Right? How you like that?
I like that a lot.
How you like them apples?
More food here.
We're getting real with Bestofbecca for real.
We are.
Seriously, this is honest.
That was a big. I went. Man, the cooking is a good one
We're
Because
getting real with Bestofbecca. I liked how that flowed, by the way. And just
we're
put that
getting
out.
real with
We're getting real with Bestofbecca.
Yeah, we are. So
We really are.
I think food is the biggest thing too, because when you're alone, like you are the only one that is gonna have to feed yourself, and if you're not careful, like you are going out a lot, and you are just getting that fast food,
McDonald's.
and you gotta learn to figure out. Like, if you're not careful. For me, I was
What, Jack in the Box? You like the spicy ketchup, huh?
whew.
We got to keep it real on this show, remember? Come on, you can keep it real. What's your favorite fast food restaurant?
Right now, at the top of my head really is McDonald's. But it changes all the time. It does.
Give me some fries and some ice cream from McDonald's, but I'll be honest with you. Some pizza from Domino's. Oh my God. Any day of the week, anytime.
Really?
And I could go work out all I want.
And you want that pizza.
I have the kind of body type that I can work out, and I love working out alone.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about that, that's another thing we didn't touch on.
No, we should.
We can elaborate or next time.
No, yeah,
but I love to work out alone, and I would eat me a pizza from Domino's before or after because I give myself grace because I eat healthy most of the time.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting into. Is like you start to have a balance and reward yourself. So I actually do. I cook pretty much. My aim for is like 3 to 4 days a week, and I actually just started doing meal prepping because this can be challenging. Like I wake up at 5:30, I go to work all day, and then I have like an hour, and then I come here, and then we're here for like 4 or 5 hours. And if I'm not careful, I'm gonna get that fast food. Yeah, we're here for like 4 or 5 hours. 3 to 4, right?
Oh
like
my
we're
God.
here. I can't.
I've been here since 7 a.m. So
Well, no, but like
the
what she's
last
like
3
that
weeks,
is consistent because like from 7 o'clock ish till having a great time and talking just to talk.
But it's so easy if I'm not careful to like try to pick up food. Or I think the very first week I had food delivered and ordered, which is great, it's fine. But I decided, that's just a lot. Like I prefer to do that actually on Fridays or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not careful, then I'm spending more money on food. I have the money to do it. I just prefer not to. I want to spend that more on, equipment or something like that. So I started really meal prepping a lot more, like I would say consistently, but what is the word? Like intentionally. So like, because if I'm not careful, like, you can meal prep and you're like, okay, I've got chicken for 5 days a week. I don't want that 5 days a week. I want a different meal every other day or something like that. Luxury here. But so I meal prepped.
Like I just said.
I made sure I have breakfast every single morning now, and I prepped that on Sunday, and then even yesterday I cooked my meal, but I also went ahead and cooked my meal for today. As simple as just popping a lasagna in the in the oven, and then I put it in a nice Tupperware, and then today I was able to microwave it and then put a salad with it, and it still felt like I was eating at home and making it, but it was quicker. And so then I had more time, and I don't feel as guilty as not stopping and getting fast food, and I'm able to still like balance my whole life, and do that.
One thing I want to make clear on this episode is that we are using the word lonely and underlining it a few times, but if you really turn that word upside down on its head, what we're describing is the single life. It's people who are single for the most part, single professionals out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you don't necessarily have to you could still have a romantic partner and still having to deal with this for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, they do come together. They don't have necessarily like opposite schedules, but they still sometimes do life alone. Like my mom will go and travel. My dad has to cook on his own. He can cook. They can both maintain their lives without each other. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people don't do that and know that they can do that, and they get really, really codependent.
Yes.
And then I think that's when issues might arise, or they think they're stuck or anything like that. So I just want people to know that, like, with it being alone comes great independence.
Yes, that's the silver lining. I love it. I love it, Becca.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. We dug into it. I appreciate it.
So stay tuned for next week where we get more real.
All right, that's it.
All right, that's it. I mean, we're getting started. This is hot and messy and perfect and imperfect. So stay with us, and we're here to help you through similar experiences that we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
We started with what was our first one? Oh, unsafe people, and then unhealthy relationships, and now how to deal with the loneliness and being alone and the beautiful art of it. So stay tuned for more and more.
Yes, we are telling a story here. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank
Okay,
you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.